Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of This Week in Real Estate. We're the T-Wire podcast, broadcast live Wednesday, April 3rd, 2023. The show title today: Are buyers, owners, or agents losing money? Where's all the money in real estate going? This episode was brought to you by viewers just like you. And thank you so much for your support. Because of your support, we are now a member of the YouTube Partner Program. So thank you guys. That means that you can make comments and actually pay for the comments. We do not have enough comments for you to be paying for them to get noticed unless you just want to buy me a beer or a cup of coffee. That's totally fine. But I will notice almost all of your comments, and then we'll display those comments as we go throughout the show, and I could talk about you, or I could just talk about your comment. So we do have a rousing good time for you today. I should mention, we're broadcasting on Instagram now. It's the T-Wire Pod. We're also broadcasting on my Instagram, which is Ray Zorback, RayZorback. Erica, she's joined us there. She says, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" The Realtor Rob is on there. He said, "Come on, Ray. What's up, the Realtor Rob?" I will try. So I can't display those comments onto the show, but I always try. I have the windows up, and I will try to read those comments as they come in. So I am paying attention to them. But we have a pretty nutty show for you today, because I have a super hard out right at 1:00. My videographer will be showing up to a listing right at that time, and I'll have to run and meet him there and do a listing video. So we don't have much time, so I want to jump in. But before I do, Elizabeth Nightingale, she comments on YouTube. What's up, Elizabeth? Thanks for joining us there. She's also in Clubhouse, which a lot of people do. They'll join us here and they'll join us in Clubhouse all at the same time. And if you're in Clubhouse, you can actually add your voice to the show and to the podcast, and it'll be here in perpetuity, whether you like it or not. So be careful what you say. I guess these days, more than ever, with all the litigious society that's happening. Oh, wow. We have a full stage up there, too. Let's see. We got Scap, Janice, Jennifer, Jill, Mia, Shari, Shawnee, and Britt. What's up, guys? So first up, I want to talk about Barbara Corcoran. She said basically that the realtor lawsuit is not a big deal. So in an interview with Yahoo Finance, Barbara Corcoran, founder of the Corcoran Group, spoke about the NAR settlement and the confusion surrounding it, which ultimately she sees as more of an issue than the settlement itself. The confusion around the settlement is more the issue than the settlement itself, which is exactly what we've been saying. Barbara, if you watch the show, just throw me say the word beard in your next interview or something, so I know. From that confusion came some interesting and highly unlikely speculation about buyer and seller behavior in the coming months. Corcoran spoke clearly and went right to the point when asked about the Stitzer-Burnett ruling and the industry settlements mean for real estate agents, consumers, and the housing market. For one, she's not buying the idea that sellers might set prices a bit lower if they don't have to pay as much commissions. She's basically saying, well, the sellers are going to keep it. And for the other, she says that the good part about it is the NAR settlement proposed the agreements between the buyer and the agent. And so all the services that they're going to do for them is laid out, and how much that cost is going to be laid out. As Corcoran sees it, those sellers will have to, quote, make good with the buyers to boost the home sales and sale prices. So they're still going to have to offer something out there, usually. But she said, all that said, Corcoran believes Stitzer-Burnett ruling is not a big deal, and the confusion arising from it, from the misleading news sources, is the real problem. So that article was on Broke Agent Media. Home prices. So she said that on Yahoo Finance in an interview, and then she did the interview round on Pete Thorpe said beard or beer. If she says either one of those, Pete, I'm going to count it as an homage to the show that she listens and has been watching. Dusty Martin said, I'm here, but also doing laundry. Well, I'm glad you're joining us. I actually have a lot of people that tell me they listen to the podcast version of the show, the audio only version, while they're cleaning the house. So I just appreciate you all listening to the show, no matter where you're from. Whoops. Okay. I see. What's up, Ian? Ian of Austin's here too. Heidi. We got a lot of folks. Yay. Real Estate Kate. So Real Estate Kate and I met on Hatton Hills Realtor. You may know her as on Clubhouse, which I'm also broadcasting on Kate. So you can come back to Clubhouse and join it there too. Dusty Martin said, don't forget to subscribe if you're all new here. All the cool kids do it. That's true. Pete Thorpe said, if you don't pay a buyer agency on your sale, but then try to use one on your purchase, you as the seller lose money. If you don't pay a buyer agency on your sale, but then try to use it on your purchase, you as the seller lose money. I could see how that would be. I could see the math there. So Barbara Corcoran says, Stisson-Burnett ruling, not a big deal. Confusion around it is the bigger issue. Oh yeah, and as I was saying, she was also on Fox News and did an interview on Fox News and said the same exact thing on there too. So I like her take on it. I think she's correct. Oh gosh, I just deleted the whole. I'm glad I brought that back. Command Z is a lifesaver. All right, NAR Settlement paints a murky commission picture for consumers, and this is exactly what she was talking about. This article is on Inman. Let me get that up there. In the wake of the National Association of Realtors NAR landmark $418 million settlement, a seismic shift is underway in the real estate industry, particularly how agent commissions are handled. The changes, though seemingly straightforward, have profound implications that will fundamentally alter the landscape of buying and selling homes in America. The heart of the matter is regarding the removal of commission rates from the MLS, the multiple listing service, which you might remember the DOJ just fought to have those public, a change that may initially appear as a stride towards transparency and fairness. However, a closer examination reveals potentially murky future where the dynamics of real estate transactions become less transparent to the very individuals they were meant to serve, buyers and sellers. It goes into some details about that, and it says commissions move behind closed doors. Man, I love the way they phrased that. That's exactly what's happened. Consider a scenario where the buyer's agent, prior to even scheduling a showing, inquires about the commission a listing agent is willing to offer. This conversation, occurring away from the eyes and ears of the buyer and seller, sets the stage for a transaction where the agent's compensation could take precedence over the buyer's best interest. In the worst kind of scenario, there's a risk that the buyer's agent may not be completely honest with the customer. For example, say in negotiations for purchase, they might quietly sort out what they need to do to secure a certain commission rate. Even more concerning, they may mislead the buyer about the commission being paid by the seller as a factor that is incorrect commission into the negotiating process. Essentially, the problem here is the agents could end up negotiating their commissions without the consumer's knowledge and approval. The end of buyer agent incentives. Okay, so this, I'll just summarize this part. You know, when people say, hey, I'll give you a $5,000 bonus if you sell this property and go under contract within the next 30 days, that agent cannot accept that $5,000 bonus if they have a buyer agency agreement saying the exact amount that they're supposed to receive for serving the buyer. So thus the incentives to agents or the bonuses for certain things are totally removed from the equation. And then the last part of this, the potential for miscommunication on commissions. Moreover, the settlement strips away guarantees of commission compensation through the MLS, opening the door for potential misunderstanding for communications about the commissions. Such disputes between brokers previously resolved through binding arbitrations through the local Realtors Association will essentially cease to exist in a scenario where it falls on the buyers to directly cover the agent commissions. Or we might see a shift forward to legal tangles between buyers and brokerages, which is something we've been talking about on some of the masterminds. Someone brought up, like, are you willing to sue the buyer? And I think previously a lot of agents would have said, no, I mean, we'll just kind of let it go and get them on the next one type of deal. But with the new paperwork involved and all that kind of stuff, it may not be your option as the listing agent or as the buyer agent to not sue. It may be the broker's option to sue. So the broker may be like real litigious and sue everybody that signed the agreement. Or they may do nothing and say, no, you can't sue as an agent. If you sue, it'll be on your own independently from anything that our brokerage does. So then that puts it right on you as the agent going after the buyer. So we'll see what happens. Olivier from Las Vegas. What's up, man? I'm glad they let you over the border, despite what people say. Ian of Austin says new home builds in Texas are mostly doing business as usual. This is direct from some of the company executives. Yeah. And he said some of the headlines are running with this negativity. Yeah, I agree. That's interesting that they're saying it's just business as usual, that they're not making any changes. Pete Thorpe said veteran can't use representation without a change in the VA rules. As usual, when the government gets involved, there's a whole host of unintended consequences. Speaking of, I think I have this in this section. Yeah, it's almost as if you read the rundown, Pete. What about VA? This is something I've been shouting from the rooftops for a long time. What about VA? Well, veterans, NAR urges home loan policy revision. Since the news of the National Association of Realtor NAR Settlement broke, the question has been popping up on chats, social media feeds, and interviews is, what about veterans? Current VA home loan policies and their implications basically say that right now they cannot pay a buyer agent fee. So Kevin Sears wrote a letter from the NAR to the to the Department of Veterans Affairs. I cannot think of that. He says, quote, the VA Home Loan Guarantee Program is a vital home ownership tool that provides veterans with a centralized, affordable, and accessible method of purchasing homes as a benefit they earn for their service to our nation. NAR wants to ensure that the VA buyers remain active participants in the real estate market to achieve the American dream of home ownership. He goes on to say VA buyers are immediately at a disadvantage, potentially forcing them to forego professional representation, lose a property in an already limited inventory, choose a different loan product, or exit the market entirely. Dusty Martin said, I like to point out that I called my congressman at least 2 weeks before the NAR entered the chat, and I'm not even paid to do it. Yes, she did. She called her congressman and talked to them before NAR sent this letter. And if I understand it right, Dusty, didn't you say that they were blindsided by it? They had no idea about the change. No one had reached out to them yet. Erica Parker says, I'm not sure if it goes behind closed doors. I think it requires that we have conversations with our buyers on each of the houses they want to see and let them know, if anything, what is being offered by the seller to see if they want to go see it. I would agree with that, but it does kind of change the tenor of the conversation. Instead of just saying like, hey, you love this house, let's go get it. It's, hey, you love this house, wait, we have to calculate all this stuff. It just makes it less fun. If nothing else, it makes the whole thing less fun. Okay, so it looks like what agents could do to support veterans now. In a recent interview with Jared James, Sears briefly spoke about the issue with VA loans. It took years and years for VA rules to be implemented, so it's unlikely that the changes to be made are anytime soon. So what do they suggest? Write it into the contract. If you have a VA buyer, from what I'm being told by consultant attorney, you would think they'd have a name there, is that any offer that is made, the VA buyer is asking in the offer, we're allowed by law for their broker to be compensated. So write it in the offer. That's what they say to do. He said, but what I will tell you is that where buyer rep agreements are mandated, I think there's 18 states across the country, VA buyers are still buying properties. Well, let me tell you, Kevin, in a state where buyer broker agreements are somewhat mandated here, yes, they're still buying properties, but we're still collecting our fee from the seller. So it's not collecting it from the buyer that would need to happen now, Kevin. But Kevin is essentially just relying on you guys to figure it out. So there you go. You got a VA buyer, you'll have to figure it out. More stressful for the buyer. Yes, I agree, Erica. I wish I could figure out a way to display comments from Instagram. We'll work on this. All right, so the Moehrl trial. So y'all might remember before the Sitzer Burnett trial, there was another trial. Oh, wait, let me go back to the veteran thing. Yep, Dusty says the House Veterans Committee was blindsided. They asked the VA who was blindsided. VA has still not responded to the House Veterans Committee while they, quote, figure it out. The problem with writing it into the contract is that some states don't allow it, like Arizona. I agree. But that's what he's being told by consultant attorney. Pete Thorpe said it's never collecting from the seller. It's a fee paid by the listing broker, then is shared with. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that is how it is here. In some states, it is paid by the seller. All right. So before this whole Sitzer Burnett trial, there was another trial. You remember what it was called? Moehrl. Moehrl. Moehrl trial shifts to early 2025 as HomeServices keeps skin in the game. The plaintiffs and defendants in the Antitrust Commission case indicated that they would be available for a 3 to 4 week trial beginning January 21st, 2025, according to court filings earlier this week. The original bombshell commission suit known as Moehrl looks to be headed for a January 2025 trial date. It's the last remaining holdout in the case. Berkshire Hathaway affiliate HomeServices of America continues its defense, even as every other defendant has settled. On Wednesday, March 27th, attorneys representing HomeServices and its subsidiaries, HSF affiliates, BHH affiliates, and Long and Foster companies noted that the National Association of Realtors had withdrawn its motion for summary judgment in the case after the trade group reached the $418 million proposed settlement with the plaintiff's March 15th request. The court deemed that motion and motions have been filed by HomeServices. In March 25th, status report to the clerk, both sides in the case indicated that they would be available. So it looks like they're going to go full bore into it. And I'm fascinated by this because they are the last remaining holdout, I guess. And if they win, I mean, what mud in the face for everyone else. I mean, such an upset. And it kind of brings up a situation, if they do win, and if other agencies win in other cases, is there room for agents to sue in that case? Do you sue your NAR for settling when they shouldn't have and paying people back when they shouldn't have? I don't know. I'm assuming that there's some kind of protection. There's probably a legal term for it. Okay. Like many other commission suits, the Moehrl case revolves around the NAR rule known as the cooperative compensation rule or participation rule. So this is basically the same rule. We'll see if they can relitigate this one now. Moehrl names the defendants NAR, Anywhere, Remax, Keller Williams, HomeServices, and its subsidiaries. Anywhere and Remax have settled both cases before the Sitzer Burnett trial for $83 million and $55 million, respectively. Keller Williams settled February 1st for $70 million. NAR settled March 15th for $418 million. All right, so we get to see what that one's going to be like. But 9 months? How many months from now? 9 months from now? That's a long time. I wonder if they're going to settle between now and then. All right, so that's the tea. That's the industry tea. So now I want to dive into the economy, and we're going to go back to Ms. Corcoran on her interview with Fox. Neil Cavuto. Shark Tank. Barbara. All right. Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran reveals when housing prices will go through the roof. Everybody look into your crystal ball. I bet you all know it. I can't explain the rates going up or down. That's not my bailiwick, she said. But I can explain that if rates go down, just another percentage point, that's what I'm hoping for, prices are going through the roof. Everyone will come out and buy. There are probably 10 buyers on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to come down that are actually active in the market. So everybody's going to change the market. So this is her big, she said, basically, if it goes down a point from now until the end of the year, that's what we're going to see. Prices go sky high because of limited inventory. If you wait for interest rates to come down by another point, I don't think you'll gain. I think you'll wind up paying more, because I wouldn't be surprised if real estate went up another 8 to 10% if interest rates come down 1%. There's a magic number that makes people get all juicy about. Uh, and it just has to slide down there for everybody to say, let's go out there and take advantage of it, she added. I love her. A lot of people are predicting that home prices. No, this is what she said in an interview, and they wrote it. I'm just saying her quotes.
Oh, I just like to write it out and give it to my buyers.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. If you go to Fox Business, it's one of their most recent housing articles on Fox Business. She says a lot of people are predicting that house prices will come down because the seller will pay less commission and take that difference and give it to the buyer. But the sellers aren't made that way. When a seller lists the home, they want the most money they can get. So they're going to take any savings and put it in their pocket. The cost of housing, I believe, will go up because it has been going up. It will be going up for the last 5 years. It's been going up for the last 5 years, despite the dire state and shortage of houses. So house prices have gone up 6% this year alone. But the real deal is there's not enough houses to go around. So there you go. The prediction is if we go down 1% in interest rates, home prices will go up 8 to 10%. A bold prediction, some would say, but if you listen to the show, you know it's what we've been talking about. That's exactly what we think. Home prices are going to go up if rates go down. So if you wait on the sidelines to jump in, then you're going to be paying more. And you as a buyer may also be paying your own agent commission if you can't find a property and you need to hire somebody. So you may want to just jump in now before July. Somerset, is this on one of the articles before I say it? Okay, no. This article just came out today, and I really haven't had time to dive into the details of it, but I did see some people saying that it could mean that interest rates are not going to be adjusted down this year at all. That the Fed is having a bigger problem with inflation than they initially thought. And they're not going to be able to tamper inflation by the end of the year in order to get the interest rate lowered. So therefore, they're thinking the interest rate may stay up all year. Weekly mortgage demand remains stalled as rates remain stubbornly high. The mortgage rates didn't move much last week, and for the second week in a row, neither did mortgage demand. Potential buyers are handcuffed by exorbitant cost and low supply, and current homeowners have little to no incentive to refinance at today's high rates. Total mortgage application volume was essentially flat. The applications to refinance fell 2%. Applications to purchase a home fell 0.1%. So it was flat week to week. But if you recall, it was down last week. So it's still relatively down compared to last week or last year, same week last year. Rates were 13% lower than a year earlier. Pete said they're all trying to hide it by changing definitions. All the underlying data that the stock market is absolute garbage. Record full-time job losses being replaced with part-time jobs. So you're saying more people are employed, but they're employed at 2 jobs instead of 1. And yes, people in the chat agree with me that we should sue NAR for dues.
Yep.
Mia agrees on Clubhouse with you, Elizabeth. That's good. All right, let's keep going on the economic news stories. This is interesting. Baby boomers, they want to die in their home. That's not exactly how the article is written, but it is a till death do us part. More than 3/4 of baby boomers plan to stay in their home as they grow older. They want to age in place, as it's called. 71% want to age in place. 7% have already done this. I think the have already done this is funny. Baby boomers moving to a 55 plus community. 16% only want to move to a 55 plus community. 3% have already done that. 8% say they will move in with their adult children and family. And 2% have already done this. 9% say they will move into assisted living. 1% say they already have. 4% are moving with a group of friends. Well, that's interesting. Huh. This is according to a Redfin survey conducted February 24th. 883 responses from baby boomers 60 to 78 years old. 62 members of the silent generation, 79 plus. That's interesting. Golden Girls. Oh, yeah. The Golden Girls. They moved in with friends. Huh. I didn't even think of that. All right. As I was pondering the Golden Girls. Typical home buyer's down payment is $56,000. That's up 24% from a year ago. We did a news report, I want to say it was a month ago, that said, maybe it was 2 months ago, that said that people have to have $80,000 more now than they did 2 years ago. Or no, $80,000 more now than they did. Oh man, I wish I could remember. It was either 2 years ago or in 2020 to purchase a home. And then there was another article that said, oh, see, Elizabeth Nightingale said, thank you for being a friend. That's what was in my head. So the typical home buyer's down payment is $56,000. That's up 24% from a year ago. We just covered an article that said people need like $30,000 more in income in order to purchase a home this year versus last year, I think it was. So we are seeing a huge decrease in affordability for the just out-of-pocket money. The median down payment for U.S. home buyers was $55,640 in February. Here's our chart. It's a good chart. It has a huge spike. Look at that spike in what is that? Maybe the first part of 2021. There was a spike where this down payment number jumped 130% or so. That is wild compared to a year earlier. Now, wait a minute. Hang on. Let me see if they have the other chart. No, they don't have the other. I'm looking for the other chart that would show the cumulative effect, and they don't have it. So if I'm reading this chart right, all right, it says home buyer down payments jumped 24% in February, year over year change in the median down payment for U.S. home buyers. Okay. You see the zero is right here. So this is zero. I wish they would have this cumulative from 2012 to today so we could see what it is, because it only went down in 2014 to 2017. It was in the negative numbers. And then it was in the negative numbers again from that brief moment in 2020. But then it didn't hit the negative numbers again until 2023 to midway 2023. So now it's gone back up. Does that hopefully that makes sense to the audio listeners? We had a huge spike in 2021 where the down payment was up 130%. I guess because remember, that's when people just were like bringing money out of their pocket to pay $130,000 over asking. I'm assuming that came out of their pocket. So the typical home buyer down payment last month was equal to 15% of the purchase price. That was up from 10% a year earlier. Home buyers are doing whatever they can to pull together a large down payment in order to lower their monthly payments moving forward. The smallest down payment I've seen recently is 25%. I had a client that put down 40. Are you guys seeing huge down payments? Well, I am not seeing a huge down. I'm seeing buyers try to get everything they can from the seller, but I am not seeing a lot of people put a gigantic number down. I'm going to Instagram, see if, okay, no comments on there. Are you guys seeing that? Anyone in Clubhouse, are y'all seeing gigantic down payments being put down right now so that people can avoid a large loan with high interest rates?
Only people that are international, that they have to. That's it.
Oh, interesting.
We're seeing a lot of cash buyers, Ray.
Ooh, roughly 1/3 home purchases were made with cash. That's interesting. That's up 34.5% from a year earlier. That's just shy of the 34.8% decade high hit in November. Huh. Dusty Martin says she has a lot of cash in her market as well. Elizabeth Nightingale says it depends. VA and FHA, no huge down payments. Retirees, yes. Huge down payments. I'm glad you mentioned that about the cash. FHA loans, more common now than during the pandy moving frenzy. Well, that's because, I mean, call it what it is. Somebody give me a shout if you could get an FHA loan accepted when you had 28 conventional offers. Yeah, I didn't hear you. That's about what it was like. So yes, FHA loans are more common now because you had a lot of people that were switching to a conventional loan, which would also increase, back up to this other chart, that would also increase your down payment because generally conventional loans are 5% plus. There are some 3% conventionals out there, but during that time period, it was a bit rare. All right, good word. The another article, housing supply. So I was showing property last week or maybe 2 weeks ago in the 600 range, which is like, that's a really nice house in Arkansas. And we had tons of homes to choose from. I think it showed like 10. And that was unheard of compared to what it used to be. Housing market update, rising supply draws in some buyers, even as housing payments soar 10% to an all-time high. The typical U.S. monthly housing payment hit an all-time high, $2,721, but that's not the biggest news in my opinion. Many sellers are trying to take advantage of the rising prices. New listings are up 15%. That's the biggest increase in nearly 3 years, and the total number of homes for sale is up 6%. That's the biggest increase in nearly a year. I saw Broke Agent Media on their, I don't think it was on their website, but yesterday they posted, let me see if I can find it. They just posted like a tweet or something. And it basically said the inventory is in the 500s again, when last year at this time it was in the 400s. Yes, they do not have a story on this. Y'all should do a story on that, Broke Agent Media. So there is way more inventory this year than there was last year, for sure. Erica says that theirs is up 22% year over year. Let's see. Oh, hey, Eureka. She says, and people are using equity lines. Yes, home equity lines of credit. She says lots of cash buyers in Silicon Valley. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I can't find I think I put it on my stories actually yesterday, so it should still be on there. But there's a lot more inventory right now than there has been in a long time, which is going to bring more people back to the market. And it's also going to have more sellers offer concessions. That's one of the things we noticed is that the sellers were kind of desperate for some feedback. We're saying, what do you think of this house? Are you going to put an offer in on it? Is there any way we can help you guys get an offer in on this property? And that increase in inventory is going to be more competitive for the sellers. I think we were already seeing a decrease in the aspirational sales prices, where sellers were just like, ooh, really pricing up there. So I've cautioned our sellers from that, and I am seeing more price decreases. I'm seeing more expireds. It feels way more like a normal market here. It's not as cray. What? Somebody just unmuted. I heard you. What's up, Jack?
It's Jack. All right, Ray.
Hey, that's a good looking avatar picture you got there, man.
How about that? That was I'm the town moderator, and that was me running my first town meeting. So
it looks so
like
suave and debonair.
So a lot of the new, so I've probably have, I don't know, a dozen new listings since the beginning of the year, which is amazing, which probably matched last year. A lot of those listings are people going to senior housing, scaling down, people have passed away. We're not seeing a whole lot of, the regular moves.
Yeah.
And so, yes, inventory had to free up from last year. But it's not the same old market, but it's nice to have the inventory, which is really needed in my market, because if we don't get some inventory, we're going to see a skyrocket in pricing. And when that happens, my past experiences is that it only crashes that much quicker. So a little bit of concern watching that. And then we're definitely seeing, the agents or the sellers that are reaching for the aspirational numbers are now starting to see 2, 3, 4 weeks on the market. And I don't think there's ever been a more kiss of death time in my time in the business, almost 40 years, that pricing means so much, and days on the market it means so much as well, where you're going to get a lot less if you don't price right in the start.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. What's up, Mia?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
But
but as long as I did,
yeah, go ahead.
Is there a way, you said the interview you were commenting on it. Is there a comment from somebody else that's written, or just that was her interview?
Which one, Barbara?
You understand? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a video, and they took the video interview and transcribed it.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah, it's on Fox Business. Yeah, Jack, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's what we're seeing here too. Maybe the have to moves are starting to list. We're seeing more of that. I am seeing less moves by choice. I am seeing more moves out of the area, which is interesting. And we still have a huge influx of people moving in, but I am seeing more people move around the country.
Interesting. Has Susie Ormond said anything about the market shift?
Not that I can not. Well, if she has, it hasn't been newsworthy. So I'll say it that way.
There we go. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining. And I've been trying to make several of you guys moderators. Maybe some of the other mods can do it. But I can't do it. I keep saying that the server is not responding. So. Okay.
Yeah, it happened to me too.
Okay.
I wanted to put a comment in.
Yeah, it looks like Clubhouse is up and down, up and down. All right. So let's go to this news story. Housing affordability just totally collapsed, says an economist. So we've been talking about the inventory hitting the market and how happy we are for it. But would-be homebuyers need to earn $113,520 a year to afford the typical home in the U.S. That's 35% more than what the typical household earns annually. So the typical person can't buy the typical home with the typical income, which is $84,072, according to a new analyst by real estate firm Redfin. They've been putting these out more often, like how much more somebody needs to make in order to buy. I haven't seen so many reports on this until recently. Would-be home buyers need to earn $113,520 a year to afford the typical house in the U.S., 35% more than what the typical household earns. Since the pandemic, affordability has just totally collapsed, said Chen Zhao, senior economist at Redfin. That deficit hit a peak in October of 2023. She added the reason why it hit a peak then is because that's when mortgage rates peaked as well. Meanwhile, home prices remained high because of an inventory crunch, and the median sell price for a home was $412,778 in February. So you can see the median sell price of U.S. homes climbing from 2012. And I think this little hitch is interesting. It looks like a cursive R with an extra little jump. For the audio listeners, if you could picture a whole bunch of cursive R's in a row, and then you slant them up. And you know how at the end of someone's signature, they kind of get crazy with it, basically making the same shape, but it's more exaggerated? Picture that from 2021 to 2024. Same basic shape, but more exaggerated and still moving up. There you go. For the audio listeners, that's the picture. Little cursive R's with a little hitch at the end, moving upward at a 45-degree angle, and it gets a little crazy, a little more drastic. But it's still going, like if you drew a trend line, it's a very clear trend line up, which tells you just to buy real estate, first off. Affordability and deficit narrowed in February. The average 30-year fixed mortgage interest rate, you could see that picture from 2020, when it was around 8.15 to today. It went all the way down. Of course, it went down. We all remember that. And then back up now to 7.76. So it's made like a big W shape almost. Man, I'm getting good at my descriptions of charts, I have to say. But if you look at this chart over like 40 years, it's kind of average.
I was just thinking the same thing, Ray, about your description.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's accurate. We're getting
nice job.
Yeah. Well, you have to paint the full picture, for video and audio listeners as well.
It's like Bob Ross.
Here's a happy little interest rate. Let's just paint a happy little interest rate there. Let's see if there's anything else noteworthy in this article. No, I think that's about it. People are getting kind of tired of waiting. So we're seeing a lot more inventory come on. However, take this with a grain of salt. If you're ready, you can afford it. Buy it now, he said. Conditions probably aren't going to get significantly better. Which is, if you look at the chart, let's go back up to the little R chart slanted up at a 45-degree angle. Home values the price of U.S. homes is just going up, up, and up, and up, and up, and up. So yes, if you can afford a home, buy it now, because this is not going to go down anytime soon. There's only been two recessions in history where home prices have gone down. One, they went down negative 19%. The other one, they went down negative 1.9%. All other recessions, home prices have increased 3 to 6%. So you're going to be pretty good if you buy a home. It's not going to happen. That once in a lifetime crash has already happened. So, is this breaking news, Pete? Hang on. Pete Thorpe chimed in with some breaking news. I want to see if I can get it on here. Where's my breaking news sounder? I can't do it. Oh, here it is. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. And Pete Thorpe reports Compass just bought Latter and Blum. 3,100 agents. Whoa. Compass making some moves despite the huge losses. Oh, we have some other breaking news too. Oh, wait, hang on. Let's just do I got to get to the Compass. I don't see the Compass article. I'm looking for it. I don't see the Compass article on. There it is. Compass acquires 3,100 agent Gulf Coast giant Latter and Blum. Interesting. Thank you, Pete. This is one of the reasons why I love doing a live show and why I love doing a live show with contributors that know what's happening and will say, hey, look. So an uncertain market and horizon filled with change, yet Compass has it kept Compass down, with a brokerage announcing Wednesday that it is now entering 2 new states via the acquisition of Gulf Coast giant Latter and Blum. The acquisition brings Compass to Latter and Blum home base of New Orleans, as well as the surrounding regions of Louisiana and Mississippi. Nice. It's a 100-year-old boutique brokerage.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I? And I'm sorry to jump in so much today, but
no, I love it. That's why we do the live show.
Something super relevant. It was your last point about pricing. It appears that we're in a mode that pricing is going to continue to rise, even on the short term. And I say that because I'm getting a lot of calls from very fatigued buyers saying, you know what, we're just fried right now, and we're thinking about stepping back and coming back. Even if they say they're coming back in a year or two, I got to hold their hand and tell them to stay in the game, even if they do wait, or even if they're forced to wait. Because if we were having this same conversation last year, you know what? They're way behind the 8 ball compared to last year. And pretty much when I use that example, they wake up pretty quick and realize that, they got to keep crawling under that barbed wire that's only 18 inches off the deck. So super relevant with regards to how we're we're coaching people on our couches right now.
What an illustration. You have to keep
I'm trying to pick up Bob Ross a little bit here.
Oh, they have to keep climbing under the happy little barbed wire, keeping the buyers down. Yeah. Yeah.
I usually say it's 18 inches off a muddy deck, but I peeled that back a little bit.
I mean, it can
Which
be a little
it is.
uncomfortable.
I mean,
it's uncomfortable right now for buyers. I think they're entering the market. As long as they know that, and we as great agents do our job in preparing them for that, they'll be okay. But if you tell them it's going to be sunshine and gumdrops, then they're going to be sorely disappointed, and you'll probably lose them.
Well, I'll tell you, I also empathize with them, and I tell them that, you know what, I know that it's really hard for you. Imagine what it's like for me when I'm dealing with it with a lot of buyers. I mean, it can totally be hard, and I can tell when I get the call from the listing agent letting me know whether I got it or not, before an entire syllable comes out of him or her mouth, his or her mouth, I know whether I got it or not. I can feel the lilt in the voice or not, and it's like, it's a taxing market for sure.
Yeah, and in ours, it's really opening up. So usually we're behind other markets that are opening or closing up. So maybe it'll start to open up in other places too. Well, here's some good news, maybe for a seller. Also, some more breaking news. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate, hosted by the bearded man of real estate. Okay, Opendoor. Opendoor will refund home sellers $62 million under the FTC settlement. So the federal agency will send checks to 54,689 consumers. It says were deceived about advertising and making claims made by the iBuyer. Opendoor will pay nearly $62 million in refunds to tens of thousands of home sellers. It's allegedly deceptive advertising under the settlement with the Federal Trade Commission. Federal agency will send checks to 54,689 consumers. According to the FTC's August 2022 complaint, Opendoor cheated home sellers by tricking them into thinking they could make more money selling their home with Opendoor than on the open market using traditional sales process, while saving them money on costs. In reality, most people who sold to Opendoor made thousands of dollars less than they would have made selling their houses using a traditional process, and many paid more in cost than sellers typically pay. Under the final administrative order, Opendoor agreed to pay monetary relief and stop its deceptive tactics. Wow. So if you're a longtime listener of the show, you will know that when Opendoor came out, we had several agents hop on the show, just like you guys have been doing the show, and say, Ray, this is not right. This is deceptive. This is what it's costing the clients. We just analyzed this one and analyzed that one. And y'all are on top of that. So kudos to you guys. And now the FTC agrees with y'all. Interesting. Okay. I got to buzz through these last because, like I said earlier, I do have a hard out in 10 minutes here. So here's what upgrading to a nicer home could cost you. This article is from CNBC. This is what a lot of people are thinking about doing right now because they're finally just resigned to get out of a 3 or 4% interest rate because they need more space or whatnot. This article is on CNBC. It says the spring housing market's defying expectations that prices would cool. Higher mortgage rates usually cool both prices and demand, and it hasn't. Home prices in February were 5.5% higher than February of last year. The average rate is higher, but sales of newly built homes, which are counted by contracts signed during the month, were 6% higher in February year over year. They talk about the lock-in effect. In stark contrast today, the average homeowner with near record low mortgage rate would see their monthly payment shoot up 132%, or roughly $1,800 in order to move up to a 25% more expensive home. So you want to go up 25% more expensive than the home that you're currently in, and your payment increases not 25%, 132%. Buying the same home they're currently in would increase their monthly payment 60%. Wow. Low rates would ease this calculation for many and make moves more reasonable, but the net result continues to be too few homes for too few many buyers. What rate would unlock the market? If rates fell below 6%, the monthly payment increase to trade up to 25% less expensive home would go from 103% average to 88%. That's modest, but welcome improvement, it says. If rates were 5%, it would require a 68% larger down payment. Still much higher than the long run average of 39%, but perhaps enough to motivate a seller. The vast majority of borrowers, say 88.5%, have mortgages with rates below 6%. Roughly 59% have rates below 4%. And 23% of homeowners have rates below 3%. Whoa. Including us. That's why I never want to sell this house. Which is, I know, I am part of the problem. Jason Bates with a good question on the iBuyer topic. How will NAR settlement affect the iBuyers? Will they have a cap on their fees? I guess fees would be different than commissions. So it would have a cap on the commissions they could take, but they would still be able to charge the fees as they go, wouldn't they? I think so. I don't think it would cap the fees. I think it caps the commission, but it could be wrong, Jason. But that's a great question. Okay, let's see. 2 more articles here. We talk about rents. We've been talking about the decrease in the multifamily development that's happening as compared to previous years, because in some areas, in some markets, you basically have way more multifamily that has been developed over the last couple of years. Everyone on Clubhouse knows about all the multifamily developers that were on here a couple of years ago, trying to get everybody to give them $50,000. Well, rents across the U.S. grew for the first time in 6 months. Only Arizona saw price drops in every metro. Rent prices for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments grew in March for the first time in 6 months. The monthly cost for a 1-bedroom apartment across the U.S. bumped $1,487, a 0.3% increase from February. Price of a typical 2-bedroom apartment jumped 0.5% to $1,847. That's a new report by Zumper. While prices are up overall, some metros saw areas decline. That's what we've been talking about. Matthew Farrell. See, I still have it on Do Not Disturb, but it came through anyway. While prices are up overall, some metros saw declines. For example, the rent price for a 1-bedroom apartment in Baltimore, Maryland is $1,390, down 0.7% from a year ago. And this is the trend where some of the metros that are really built up in those multifams, those are the ones that are seeing the price decrease, and they're also seeing fewer multifam starts than they have been. All right, this is the last one. Gen Z versus millennial housing costs before age 30. Who is paying more? Drop in the comments. Who do you think is paying more? Gen Z or millennials? Housing costs before the age of 30. Who's paying more? I would assume, before I read this article, I would assume it would be Gen Z, because most millennials aren't buying a home before the age of 30. That was my take. And then I read it. Okay, Gen Zers are spending more of their income on housing costs by age 30 than millennials did at their age. On the other hand, Gen Z homeowners spend less on housing costs from 22 to 29 than millennials did. According to a Rent Cafe report shedding light on housing costs for Gen Z before the age of 30 compared to generation before them, according to Pew Research, Gen Zers are less likely to drop out of school and more likely to be enrolled in a 2-year or 4-year college. That's interesting. While college graduates aren't necessarily better educated, student loan debt does provide extra motivation to earn. So basically, they're saying that the debt that they incurred from going to college encourages them to earn money to get out of the debt. Run away from the negative or towards the positive, and then running away from the negative. Housing costs for Gen Z, renting versus owning. According to Rent Cafe, Gen Zers, numbering almost 66 million, will earn an average of $550,000 each in their first decade as adults, 14% more than millennials earned in their 20s. Income levels by metro and higher coastal metros, especially Silicon Valley, San Jose, San Francisco. All right, so income by household, Gen Z and millennials, 547 Gen Z, millennials 478,000. Interesting. And then the cost of renting versus the cost of owning. For Gen Z, they calculate the cost of renting 144,557. Millennials 126,000. I think this is just so if it's true what they're saying that Gen Z are making more money, then that could be why their housing costs are more, because their standard of living is a little higher. And also, I mean, they settled down a little bit earlier than millennials. They probably had kids a little earlier than millennials. So I think there's a lot that goes into home ownership numbers like this, not just, how much money they make in a 10-year period versus how much their rent is or their life is in that time. So Gen Z out earns millennials, but pays less for owning and more for renting by age 30. Gen Z out earns millennials, pays less for owning and more for renting by age 30. Huh. All right. I've got to quick out, like I said, and we are done. I mean, that is like all of the stuff, which is really cool because we're stopping right on time today. So thanks everybody for joining the show. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments, all the Clubhouse folks for dropping by. I love to see all of you here. So I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And don't forget to tune in. Follow me on Ray Zorback on Instagram. That's RayZorback. And I have a group on WhatsApp for the contributors. So if you want to go there and shoot a couple of articles that you want us to cover, just have a chat about what's happening. That's just kind of for me to store like the articles that we're going to cover and talk about it all there too. So I'll have links on my stories this afternoon. So thanks for everybody. That's not what I meant. Thanks everybody for joining. And I won't see you next week because I'll be in Houston for a conference, the Real Estate Video Blueprint. So if you're going to be in Houston next week, reach out. I'd love to meet you in person. But I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.